Just because a movie gets ignored at the box office, quietly dumped to streaming, or barely makes a dent on the award circuit doesn't mean it's a bad movie. Sometimes it just means it was the wrong film at the wrong time, or nobody bothered to market it properly, or audiences just didn't know what to make of it. Today, I want to talk about 10 recent movies that flew almost completely under the radar. Some flopped, some were barely seen, but all 10 of them are films I genuinely enjoy and strongly recommend. And with the right framing, I think you're going to want to watch all of these. I'll tell you why each one got overlooked, and more importantly, why you should track it down right now. So if you like getting solid movie recommendations, let the algorithm know by clicking subscribe. I put out 2 videos like this every single week, and I'll make sure you never run out of great stuff to watch. Now let's get into it. Now, I want to kick things off with a film that I completely understand why most people skipped. It's slow, it's quiet, nothing blows up, nobody saves the world, and the marketing was pretty much non-existent. But here's the thing. This is one of the most quietly devastating films I've seen in years. It's based on a novella the same name, and it follows a logger named Robert Grenier through the first half of the 20th century. And that's basically it. It's just his life, his work, his loneliness, the people he loves, the people he loses. An ordinary life fully lived. Now, I can kind of understand why this didn't find a wide audience. There's no hook you can put in a trailer, no twist, no spectacle. It asks you to just sit with a character and pay attention, and most people aren't going to show up to theaters for that.
Men bras in the knees.
But Joel Edgerton's performance here is extraordinary. It's almost entirely internal. You're watching a man think and feel and exist, and the film pairs that with these gorgeous, surreal dream sequences that give the whole thing this aching, poetic quality. Director Clint Bentley treats this ordinary life with this real extraordinary sensitivity. And if you're the kind of person who responds to that kind of filmmaking, this one is going to stay with you. The film is Train Dreams. Now, my next pick I think flopped mainly because nobody could figure out how to sell it. And I get that, I really do. This is the kind of movie where if you showed the marketing department the finished cut, they would just stare at the wall in silence for a while. It's a crime drama, it's a comedy, it's a character study, it's a thriller. It's all of those things at once, and it never quite settles into one lane, which is either going to frustrate you or completely win you over. It's based on the real-life story of Jeffrey Manchester, a criminal who hid inside a toy store while on the run from the police, which is already one of the most unhinged true stories I've ever heard. And director Derek Cianfrance, who also did Blue Valentine and The Place Beyond the Pines, just leaned straight into that tension between the absurd and the genuinely human.
Tell me what's going on. Right now.
The 2 leads are the real reason to watch this. Channing Tatum has spent years proving he's a genuine acting heavyweight when given the right material. And this is the right material. And Kirsten Dunst, has she ever given a bad performance? She got an Independent Spirit Award nomination for this, which was the only real awards recognition the film got. Both of them deserved a lot more. In a more just world, this would have been a major awards contender. Instead, it came and went. The film is ROOFMAN.
What kind of accident?
First it was hit and run.
Now, my next pick is one I think a lot of people saw the premise for and immediately moved on, and I really can't blame them. It's about a man who becomes obsessed with saving people who have car accidents at the sharp corner near his house. That's it. That's the logline. And yeah, on paper, that sounds like a hard sell. But what Sharp Corner is actually about is control. The desperate human need to feel like you have some, and how the people who grip hardest onto the world around them are usually the ones who feel most powerless in their own lives, which is a much richer idea than the premise suggests. Now, the reason this film works is almost entirely Ben Foster, and if you know Ben Foster, you already know what you're getting. He has built his whole career playing characters who are quietly, specifically off in a way that's impossible to look away from.
Could have saved his people.
We're not playing the charade anymore.
Can you describe what you saw?
And Josh Maskell is one of the most uniquely afflicted characters he's ever played. There's also just enough dark comedy in Jason Buxton's script to keep it from getting too heavy. Kobe Smulders is really good opposite him too, in a role that could have easily been underwritten. This one vanished from sight in record time, which genuinely baffles me. hopefully this is another one that finds its audience on streaming. The film is Sharp Corner.
Carl had an unusual request.
Now this movie, I think, got lumped in with a bunch of movies it had no business being lumped in with, and that killed it. On the surface, it looks like every other low-rent action thriller about a reluctant hero who has to get tough to save somebody. You know the template. Taken basically invented the modern version of it, and streaming is absolutely flooded with cheap knockoffs. But here's the thing, Dead of Winter is not one of those movies. The difference is Emma Thompson. She plays a grieving woman who accidentally stumbles into a kidnapping and ends up having to go full mama bear to save a teenage girl. And she is an absolute firecracker in this role. She's funny, she's fierce, she's heartbreaking, and she commits completely. This is the Liam Neeson role, except it's Emma Thompson, and that makes it a completely different movie. It's got a Fargo-flavored quality to it that I really appreciated. That mix of crime thriller and dark comedy that just gives the whole thing a little more texture than you'd expect. And Judy Greer gets to play one of the kidnappers, which is a genuinely rare opportunity to see her do villain work. She's great. Is it the most original film on this list? No, but it executes exactly what it promises, with real skill, and it deserved a much better fate than getting buried on streaming next to movies it's got nothing in common with. The film is Dead of Winter.
They say he was once a knight. Before.
Now, I've got a theory that Hollywood keeps remaking good movies when they should be remaking bad ones, because the best recent remakes I've seen have come from filmmakers who took a terrible old movie with an interesting premise and just went completely wild with it. And that is exactly what happened here. This is a remake of a 1983 sword and sorcery trash fire called DEATHSTALKER, and the original is infamous, cheap, sleazy, rampantly sexist, and not really good in any defensible way. So when they announced the remake, the general response was basically a shrug. But then they got Steven Kostanski to direct it. And if you know Kostanski from Psycho Goreman, you already know this is not going to be a normal movie. He basically uses the DEATHSTALKER branding as a license to go absolutely wild with practical gore, creature work, makeup, and costumes.
My old friend. Come and get it.
The plot doesn't really matter, and honestly, it didn't matter in the original either. What matters is the craft. The kills in this film are outrageous. The practical effects are genuinely impressive for the budget. Daniel Bernhardt is a blast in the lead, and the whole thing has this gleeful, committed energy of a filmmaker who knows exactly what his audience wants and is thrilled to deliver it. It's a card-carrying B-movie, and a really good one. The film is DEATHSTALKER. Now, real quick, we are halfway through this list, and if you've been enjoying it, clicking that subscribe button right now is genuinely the best way to support the channel. It tells the algorithm that you want more of this kind of content, and it helps me keep making these videos twice a week. Like button too if you don't mind, it helps way more than you think. Alright, back to the list. It only gets better from here.
There's something wrong with Ben.
Now, I want to be upfront about this one. I completely understand the skepticism. When I tell you it's a slasher movie where the killer is a rabid chimpanzee portrayed by a guy in a suit, I know what your face is doing right now. I had the same reaction. But hear me out. PRIMATE went viral earlier this year because of that absurd premise. And yeah, the premise is absurd, but director Johannes Roberts actually makes it work. And the reason it works is exactly because they committed to the practical approach. Instead of using CGI for the chimp, they went with a suit, which sounds like a budget limitation, but it's actually a huge advantage because it means the villain is on screen constantly. There's no cutting away to reaction shots every time the effects budget runs out. The chimp is just there, all the time, being chaotic and terrifying.
Listen to me, we need help.
Oh, you need some help?
Send some help.
The cast does their jobs, the film doesn't take itself too seriously, and the kills, I'll just say the kills are genuinely nauseatingly wild in the best possible way. This should have been a Megan-level cultural moment. It had that same energy. Instead, it was a modest success that not nearly enough people saw. If you like horror that's fun, nasty, and completely unhinged, this is an easy recommendation. The film is PRIMATE. Now, my next pick is the one on this list that I think got ignored for the most frustrating reason. It just didn't have a hook that was easy to sell. It's a crime thriller about a real-life sovereign citizen, an anti-government extremist named Jerry Kane, and his eventual clash with local law enforcement. And I know, that doesn't sound like the most exciting pitch, but stick with me. What writer-director Christian Swegel does really well is pull you into the inner workings of this subculture without ever talking down to it or mocking it. He just observes, and that restraint makes the whole thing way more unsettling than any amount of editorializing would have. Nick Offerman plays Kane, and it is genuinely one of the best performances of the past year. He plays this man as a true believer, not a cartoon villain, not obviously unhinged, just a guy who was absolutely convinced he's right. And watching the cracks form is quietly devastating. Jacob Tremblay plays his teenage son, and the father-son dynamic here is one of the more heartbreaking things I've seen on screen recently. Given what's happening politically right now, this subculture feels more relevant than ever, and this film takes it seriously in a way that almost nothing else does. It deserved a much bigger audience. It got almost none. The film is sovereign.
Let's go back to your place and you can take advantage of my poor judgment.
I depend on your poor judgment.
Now, I think my next pick flopped for one very specific reason. Nobody could believe it was real. It's a Darren Aronofsky movie. Darren Aronofsky, who made Requiem for a Dream and Black Swan and Pi, and it's a crackling, blackly comedic Guy Ritchie-style crime caper set in 1990s New York about a bartender who gets dragged into a violent criminal conspiracy over a cat. I'm not making that up. That is the movie. That is the Aronofsky movie. And the thing is, it works completely. It's funny, it's brutal, it moves fast. The 90s New York atmosphere is immaculate, and Austin Butler is electrifying in the lead. This is the performance that really should have made him a full-on movie star. I can understand why the marketing struggled. New Aronofsky film sets very specific expectations, and this film aggressively refuses to meet them. Aronofsky fans showed up expecting psychological suffering. They got a bloody, stylish crime comedy instead, and I think a lot of them didn't know what to do with that. But if you go in knowing what it is, which you now do, this is one of the most purely enjoyable films of the past year. It flopped at the box office, got quietly sent to streaming, and deserved a far, far better fate. The film is Caught Stealing.
You're looking at robberies of jewels, money, or high-value items in the last 4 years.
Now, my next pick is one where I think I actually understand the flop pretty well. Amazon basically gave this thing the minimum viable release, dropped it in February with almost no marketing, a late review embargo, and a title so generic it could apply to literally anything. Crime 101? Come on. And yeah, all of that sent a very clear signal to audiences that this was probably not worth their time. But here's the thing. It absolutely is worth your time. Now, I'll be honest with you, Crime 101 is not reinventing the wheel. It is openly, shamelessly working from the Michael Mann ensemble crime thriller playbook, the Heat playbook specifically. If you're looking for something groundbreaking, this is not that movie. But filmmaker Bart Layton, who also did The Imposter and American Animals, understands that familiar material done brilliantly is still brilliant.
You tell him I see you again in the book. Man.
And Crime 101 is gorgeous. It's slick. The cast is electric. Every scene has this cool, controlled tension that just keeps building. This is exactly the kind of movie that reminds you why you fell in love with crime thrillers in the first place. The box office numbers were rough, but I genuinely think this is going to become one of those films people discover on streaming and immediately force on everyone they know. The film is Crime 101. Now, we've only got one movie left, and I put it at number 1 because I think it's the best thing on this list.
Of people who died because of you.
And I'll be honest, this one didn't flop in the traditional sense. People showed up, but given the scale of the Peaky Blinders fan base and given the quality of what's on screen, I still think it found about half the audience it deserved. If you watched the series, and if you didn't, fix that immediately, you know the weight that Tommy Shelby carries. This film picks up 6 years after the season 6 finale. Tommy is living in a crumbling manor, writing his memoirs, trying to find some version of peace. And then, because the universe absolutely hates Tommy Shelby, he gets pulled back in. His illegitimate son, Duke, played by Barry Keoghan, is now running the Peaky Blinders and causing serious problems. And Keoghan is excellent. Watching him wrestle with his father's absence and his father's name is one of the film's best threads. But this is Cillian Murphy's movie. He's played this character for over a decade, and he still finds new depth in him. You can see the exhaustion in his face and his walk and every pause before he speaks. A man who has become a legend and isn't sure that's a good thing. Is the film perfect? No, the second half tilts into heist territory in a way that doesn't quite match the emotional weight of the series finale, but as a piece of Peaky Blinders, as a showcase for Murphy, and as a film that genuinely grapples with legacy and memory, it's remarkable. The film is Peaky Blinders, The Immortal Man. And that is the list. Now, if you still got space in your watch list after all of that, our next video is leaving Earth entirely. We're counting down 10 incredible outer space sci-fi films: survival, exploration, mysterious planets, space horror, romantic sci-fi, a little something for every fan of the genre. It's a great list, go watch it. If you got value out of this video, hitting the like button is a great way to support the channel. It genuinely helps more than you think. But I'm gonna keep making these as long as you all keep watching them. See you in the next one.